Good evening, everybody, and welcome to ORL. I am not your usual Davies to do the commentary tonight. I'm Gareth, or some of you might know me as Warder Zero from the Xbox scene. I'm filling in tonight. I am absolutely honoured to be doing this. This is something that I was not expecting to be doing in 2023 so early, but I am absolutely honoured to be doing it. Thank you so much for ORL. For this, but I am joined by the incredible Joanna to help me guide me through this one, I should say, because I'm going to need a little bit of guiding with some incredible drivers out here in ORL. And I suppose actually let's go straight to it. I think is the best way to do it. Let's have a look at the standings. I think is the best way for us to go, because the standings look absolutely incredible here, and I will allow you to speak in a minute, Joanna. But yeah, look at this. Daniel Berezne only 9 points ahead of his rival in Akinci. Is that correct?
Akinci.
Kane Akinci in the Alpine. But yeah, this is looking really tasty, and obviously that disconnect at Canada right at the end of last year has really hurt Daniel Berezne's chances.
Yeah, welcome to ORL, Garrett. I'm pretty sure you'll have plenty of fun tonight, but as well as our spectators, of course, welcome all. But yes, Dani Berezne misses 2 races, has a nightmare of end of the last corner in Canada, still leading the top of our standings with Chen Akinci in second, with Ismail Fassi. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us on the last 2 races and has fallen into 3rd position. Of course, nothing is lost. We still have 4 races to go, if I'm not mistaken, so plenty of action to see. And tonight we are going to one hell of a circuit. So tell me, Garrett, what are your expectations for tonight?
Well, let's that is something that I'm not really 100% sure on. I think we're going to see an incredible
fun part,
especially in qualifying 1 right now. You guys can't see it, we can. It is absolute. It's pretty much exactly what you expect with British weather. It's pouring it down right now at Silverstone, and you know what? It's going to be really interesting to see, because at the moment we're not 100% sure what the race is going to be like. So are people going to be constantly changing their strategy? How are they going to make up the setups? I'm not 100% sure, because if it's raining in the race as well, we could be seeing some incredible happenings throughout here in ORL. But I think was it Javier Fernandez had some really good pace in qualifying early doors in Canada, so maybe we can see him do something well here. But obviously you would be quite amiss to say that Berezne or even I mean, I look at Ismail Fassi as well. I know he had an incredible race the other night in another league, so maybe we can see something great from him. Or can we see someone not up there towards the top, maybe Diego Costa or Tycho Hardy? Maybe we can see names like that can be up at the higher end of this grid.
Well, if I had to bet on the Portuguese, with all and the utmost respect for Tiago, I'd first bet on Nelson. He has been really unfortunate in the 2 races he has been with us, but he has proven that he belongs here and that he can show us a good pace. Although, as you mentioned, this is British weather, he's Portuguese, so let's see what he makes of the rain. And of course, really glad to see Ismail Fassi back on the grid together with Chen Akinci and of course Dani Berezne, our championship leader. I'm pretty sure that these 3 at least, but all of the grid of course, will give us a fantastic spectacle tonight. We might be going to the game already.
Yeah, we're moving over, and for some reason,
well, it seems like we have a Ferrari already moving over as well, and that was our American Hutton Pool, with a bit of some issues out of Luffield, but already pointing in the right direction. Hopefully, let's see. For now, we have the full grid on wets. I'm going to do a spoiler alert, because I've been told that we won't have rain in the race. No race, no. We'll have a race, but no rain in the race. So interesting to see what our drivers will do with their setups, because they will have to qualify on wets, but they can't compromise the race.
And maybe that's why Hudson was struggling so much. He's made himself into he's got himself into the dry setup, and he just can't handle it as well. But we're having Tony Ritchie struggling as well as he comes down through Aintree and the Wellington Straight. So drivers really are struggling here. But Fassi, a 140.3 to start qualifying life off with, and 0.6 of a second in front of the McLaren of Jan. And I think maybe let's see who could be on a lap. I'll stick on board with Tony Ritchie and see what he can do, because at the moment he's managed to get to grips a little bit, and that's the other thing. Maybe they'll take 1 or 2 laps to produce a good qualifying, just so they get used to this rain, because this is torrential rain.
Absolutely, and it will be interesting as well to see if the track improves towards the end of the session, and even between qualifying sessions, of course. For the moment, we have the first times going as Gianpietro Giano, the only Italian on the grid tonight, crossing the line sideways, but still managing to grab P2. So I'm sure these times will still come quicker during this session. And of course, we'll have plenty of yellow flags at the moment, with our drivers trying to grab some space so they can start with some kind of clean air, if we may say so, in the rain, because it's not really clean.
It'll be a miss of me not to go on board with Danny Berezne as he comes through Cops now and into Maggots and Beckett's. He's looking quick. He's looking like he's able to get this car really stuck to the ground as he exits Beckett's and into Chapel now. Still not, and I don't think he's pushing too hard.
He has invalidated his attempt, unfortunately. So he will be going for a second attempt, I believe.
So we'll stick on board with Danny and see what he can do in the next lap, because he's held off a little bit. I wonder if he's just going to let someone through quick. He is, just to see how that one pans out for him. And yeah, let's see what he can do. Well, let's give him a full lap and see what he can do. Hopefully he won't invalidate next time. But look how close Fassi and Gianpietro's time are. That is really close, especially if you're telling me you managed to see it. But Gianpietro going sideways across the line is quite special in itself. And there goes, well, I'm going to call him Bence with
Zabocconi.
Yeah, wow. Saboconi, there we go.
Yeah.
140 dead pretty much across that. Setting the times are coming down though. This is going to be an interesting one.
Well, Bence back on the grid is also a good news. He had to miss the last, I think, couple of races, and he's always a quick one to still always keep an eye on him. His teammates with Danny Berezne for a reason, I believe. So our Hungarians so far managing to keep the lap together, and still 8 drivers to put a lap a time on, while we have Modesto Mena in the McLaren trying to put the first time on the intermediates, but just going 11th on the grid, almost no more than 2 seconds of Ismail Fassi's time, which is the faster at the moment. So maybe not yet for intermediates.
Definitely doesn't look like it. If I'm honest, it's looking far too wet for the intermediates. Maybe it will be towards the end of this session, but maybe he needs another lap in there just to get himself through. Let's see if I might have to go backwards on this one just to see Danny Berezne. Has he invalidated again? I think he has, because he's going slow.
He just aborted this time. He starts his lap quite close to Chen Akinci, maybe thinking that the Alpine driver was finishing his attempt, but he had invalidated as well. So they were both pushing quite close to each other, and then Danny probably just decided, this is not good enough. I'm just going to give you a bit of space, try to go for my attempt, and if this is not good enough, I'll just go for the pits while I still have time to prepare a last proper attempt.
Yeah, through Cops goes Hudson Pool this time around, and it very much more controlled than it was last time as he lost it through Luffield and Woodcut at the early doors. But still struggling a little bit with a bit of oversteer, I think, there, and again having to really fight the car as he exits Chapel, and down the hangar straight he goes. Hopefully he's going to set a lap time this time into Stowe, and it's looking relatively okay for him at the moment, but then there is a little bit of the wobble, and that back end really does slide on the Ferrari. So struggling for grip, some of these drivers at the moment.
One other driver that I would like to point at this moment is Zixing Xing, and I'm apologies if I'm not saying it right, but it's the first time that I believe we have a Chinese driver with us tonight. He's an F1 Chinese esporter, so I'm not sure, but this must be almost morning for him, right?
It must be, yeah. He's either stayed up or got up really early to take part in this one. So fair play to him if that is the case. So it's great to see as well, isn't it? Someone to show dedication.
For sure. Absolutely. Great to see him here. So far, it's not going that well with the lap already invalidated again. So he will have to try and to prepare a final attempt. Not sure if... I think he might have enough fuel on board, but still curious to see if he opts to go for a new set of wets or even intermediates if it keeps improving, because I don't think the rain is as much as it was at the start, but I don't think it's yet indoors. So it should be interesting to see what option does he make, because him and Jakub Rzeszut don't have any times yet on the board.
Jakub then coming through Maggots and Beckett's, and this is and Chapel as well. We can't forget about that corner. And again, similarly to Hudson Pool, really struggling to get to grips. There are a few drivers swapping around right now. Berezne does take pole away from the first place for the time being in Q1. As there's a Ferrari, I believe that is Hudson Pool, really struggling with some grip issues here at Silverstone. But Jakub coming through Club now. What can he post on the lap time? Let's see. As he crosses the line, is it going to be enough to save him for the time being? It is. It's P14.
Well, that's still a bit scary, isn't it? With the track improvement that is going on. Of course, they are not yet safe. But at the moment, we have 4 drivers in the top 10 with inters fitted into their cars. Of course, only Modesto put his time on intermediates. So it might be time to change for the green tires and try to do their best and not lose the car, because that's the real challenge here.
That is a massive challenge in itself. And at the moment, well, Fassi's decided to retire. He's happy with this. Pledson then is just about to finish a lap time, so let's see what he can do. The ET8 driver at the moment through Club and across the line for the Ferrari driver. He's got enough. He's really struggling for grip. I don't think that's improved at all for him at the moment. So I think some of these drivers, maybe the top guys, the top 6 that you mentioned about going on to Inters, maybe they're if they can keep it on the track, they've got nothing to lose, because I don't think anyone is... I don't think the track is improved enough for other people to really challenge those top times.
Well, to be honest, I think that Ismail Fassi, this retirement might put him passing into qualifying in risk if no one misses their chance, because it might not be improving that much, but it's improving. And in the rain, not even Dani Berezne has retired already. Well, if this was a dry qualifying, he might have thought about it. He often retires before the end of the session, in the first qualifying session, but he's not doing it tonight. He has the intermediates fitted at the moment for a reason. He knows, and he's coming out. He knows that the track is improving, and everyone will try to put a new lap in, and if the lap is good, they'll probably improve the time.
Wait and see what Danny can do on those intermediate tyres very, very shortly. And this is going to be an interesting end to qualifying for Fassi. He's going to be sat there wondering if he's made the wrong choice. But Felipe Sousa across the line, and it's P6, so the improvements are coming thick and fast, like you've mentioned. And this is going to be an interesting one to see how some of these drivers, whether they will stay in. Gian Pietro is going out as well. So let's go on board with the Alpine driver of Akinci. Let's see how he can hold this. Is that Mena crashing, or is he retired?
Retiring in the pits. Quite brave of him, if I may say.
Yeah, very, very brave.
I mean, you have quite a few drivers on track behind him on the wet. One of them was Felipe. Of course, he improved even with the wet tires. So let's see what happened. But Modesto is falling. Someone jumped ahead of him. I think it was Milan Mayer. So even the wet tires are working. So let's see what happens to these two drivers.
Yeah, there's yellow flags happening at the moment, and
just preparing the lap, probably.
Yeah, hopefully it is. Hopefully it is that, and we're not having major issues. And let's go on board with Nelson then in P13 at the moment as he comes through Stowe. I believe he's going to be setting a lap time this time around, so it's going to be a good one. Well, I say it's going to be a good one. I'm hoping it's going to be a good one for the Portuguese driver as he comes through Club, and it just seems a little bit tentative at the moment from some of the throttle inputs. And
he's starting a final attempt.
So he's got one more throw at the dice to make sure he is safe, because a 140.6 I don't think is going to be safe, especially with you've got two other drivers on that time as well, Tycho Hardy and Lopez. So I think he's going to be in a little bit of trouble right now. I wonder if anyone else is on a lap time. I know he probably gets loads of screen time anyway, but Danny Beresne, as he comes through down the Hamilton straight, he comes not the Hamilton straight, sorry, through Woodcote and into Copse.
Yeah, the Hamilton straight is where they cross the line. So, so many straights, and I think it's one of the few circuits where you don't really use DRS on the start finishing straight. And they have quite a few drivers already jumping. So Milan Mayer jumping to 5th again, improving his time once more.
But I don't. And Gian Pietro are on the same time.
With different tires, I think. Let me check. Yes, with different tires. So they should be quite equivalent right now. And this might have been a good call for those that stayed on the wet, because they'll have a fresh set of inters for the rest of the qualifying session that should keep improving.
Danny Beresne wasn't able to improve, but I think he's going to go again. But you're quite right. That's fresh set of inters could prove the difference in Q2 for some of these drivers. So we'll have to... Well, as I say, we'll have to wait and see. We will definitely have to wait and see. There is another... Kledson is still on a set of wets. He's trying maybe just to get used to some of the wets condition. But he is still pounding out laps right now. Let's see how he can handle this one as he comes through Stoke and into Vale. Looks like it's, again, just a little bit tentative on the throttle, but I'm not surprised considering the conditions they're driving in right now.
Gareth, I'd suggest we jump to Jacob Rosescu. He will be the next one that is in the relegation, if we may say, zone. He will be the first crossing the line of those three that are still making their attempts. We already have Thiago Costa and Zixing Xing eliminated for the second qualifying session. So let's see what the Williams driver can do. He snaps a bit, but still manages to jump to 9th. Let's see what answer can Tony Richer and Hudson Poole do. This makes that Javier Fernandez and Tycho Hardy both out of the third qualifying session as Tony Richer jumps to P8. And of course we have Hudson Poole, but he has invalidated his attempt, so he's out as well. Garrett, we have our 5 drivers that will not be proceeding into the second qualifying session.
And Danny Beresne just maybe sticking the knife in a couple of people there, going extra quicker, a 1:39.0, and Hudson, unfortunate for him to invalidate, but Danny Beresne maybe just showing a little bit of a flexing of the muscles to say, you know what, I am still, even after with the last race's result, with his disconnect. He's still the driver to beat, but let's see. Yeah, not ideal for those drivers that have dropped out, unfortunately. And apologies, I can't. It's not. Hopefully, I haven't.
You have to press enter first, and then you can.
There we go. Yeah. It's been so long since I've done the PC side of things. Hardy, Fernandez, Costa, Poole, and Zing then out of qualifying. It's a shame for Zing in the Aston Martin. It just didn't seem like he was able to get a qualifying lap together.
I mean, you come for your first race and you get rain, so not really fair for him. Well, it's obviously fair because it's the same for everyone, but still, what a way to complicate things for a first race. And of course, we really have all places all out on the first qualifying session. When you consider that you have China out, USA out, Portugal and Spain out, so quite spread around the world. And of course the Netherlands. Sorry for Taiko Hardy. So quite a few spots already eliminated in this first qualifying session. Let's see. It seems to be pouring more again on this second qualifying session, but it might just be me.
I think you're right. I think the British weather really is causing issues for some of these guys out here. We've got a fair few drivers getting themselves ready to go out. I think Ismail Sfassi is definitely one of them to go straight away. But, I mean, looking at Q2, who do you feel the 5 drivers really are at threat of being dumped out on this occasion?
I mean, it's really hard to say because this is not really a pure pace question. First, you have to consider that it's not dry pace, it's weather pace, wet pace, sorry, wet weather pace. And then you have to consider the timings because if there is any kind of track improvement, these might prove vital. We saw Dani just improving his time at the end of the first qualifying session. He's one of those drivers that will have one less set of intermediates. I'm pretty sure he'll go for the first attempt on the used intermediates and leave the fresher one for the end. But at the moment, we can see a mix of intermediates and wets. Of course, both on track and on the pit. So interesting. It will be interesting to see which is the best strategy.
Yeah, I think early doors maybe it is that used set just to because you shouldn't lose that much time over in the wet conditions. It's very different from the dry setup and how the tires react to being reheated and being used. I don't think we'll see too much time difference between this one and what happened at the beginning of qualifying of Q1, but I think people really are going to start smashing the times down and really pushing in Q2 towards the end just to get themselves set and ready. And just like I think Ismail Fassi might be the one just to watch out for at the moment to set early door pace, because he just seems a little bit at home with the car right now and seems more in tune with what he needs to do.
Of course, he was championship leader for a while when Berezny was. He couldn't show up due to his F1 esports commitments. So, of course, we can never ignore the potential of the Spaniard. He for sure, and if you recall the race in Miami, they were battling it out until literally there was some incident with. I think it was an Haas driver. So it should be really interesting to see how he can. And of course, we had that battle in Bahrain with him and Fassi as well as other drivers. BenQ wasn't really far from it. Jan Aladej is another driver that we can't really ignore. He won in Baku and he has been showing good pace in the other races. But of course, Silverstone always brings a bit of a DRS train, and it's very, very strategical in which moment you do attack. So I'm quite interested to see what will become of this race.
Yeah, the race itself is going to be brilliant. Fassi then 0.6 of a second quicker than Jakob, and Mayer then unable to really challenge at the moment on those intermediate tyres for the Haas driver. So maybe Inters isn't the way to go at this moment in time. I think we've got Kledgson as he's coming through. It's into Club and Vale now for the Ferrari driver. He does have, I think that's Daniel Beresne behind him as well. But let's see what Kledgson can do when he crosses the line. He is struggling a little bit on those intermediate tyres at the moment, but he does manage a 140.6. And sorry, it was Bentz actually that was on a lap behind. So it does look like right now the wet weather tyres are the ones to be on. They've got a little bit more grip about them.
Yeah, for sure. We see them quite mixed, don't we? We have Fassi and Resut on the wets, but then Jan Aladesh on the inters, then Ben Sebek on the wets, Daniel Millen and Modesto on the inters. I think it's a bit mixed again. But we have Dani on the inters, and if I have to take one chance, I'll go with the esports driver. But of course, all of them have huge experience at this point. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at this level. So interesting to see. I really got scared. I was on board with Ismael Fassi while he was joining the pits. And it seemed like the game was going to make him crash with the Williams ahead of him. But of course, when you enter the pits, the game takes control of the car, so nothing happened. Thank you. Sorry, who? Tony. Richer is on the wets. He's on the wets. He's on a valid attempt down into the third sector, but coming into the pits. So he will be. I think he might be trying to go for the inters. You can fault my logic. Haas, I don't have it by heart. I can check. But well, one of the driver hasn't been here as much as the other, so only one driver scoring for the team hurts a bit their ambitions. Of course, let's see where Milan Meyer can go. So far, he's looking good. Even in the first qualifying session, he was putting faster lap after faster lap. So not only relying on the battery, but as well as some decent pace. So interesting to see where he will be able to go. Let me just invite Lillian again because he fell from the lobby. Garrett, just check if you haven't muted yourself.
That could be a problem.
For the stream.
I will just unplug my mic and replug my mic because that sometimes happens. But yeah, Haas right now have only got 5 points if I remember rightly.
It's good
so
now.
It's good now. Good, awesome. We're there. We're there. Yeah, Haas with only 5 points. That's I mean, Maya's got. There's pressure on drivers when their teams only got that little points. The same as AlphaTauri with 8. They're really looking for their drivers to push on a little bit more. As I'm on board with Nelson.
Both Nelson and Thiago will not be able to get any points for AlphaTauri because they're reserves.
Yeah, so
But
I suppose that takes the pressure away from them a little bit because they can just run their own races.
which is ideal when you're racing the first races here in ORL, so you don't have that pressure of a team championship as well. You just come and do your best and hope for the best.
Danny Berezne then puts it even faster lap time, a 1:38.8, and I wonder if he's going to go even quicker as he comes down the hanger straight into Stowe. He's just getting quicker and quicker, and it's incredible, really, the consistency that he is producing here. But he is popping into the pit lane, so he's not going to go any faster. I wonder if Ismail Fassi is going to start setting some of these times alight as well now. Let's see as he goes into Stowe.
Oh, he has invalidated his attempt, and behind him, of course, you have Gianpietro Giano. He's not on a valid attempt, but who is Jacob Rosessu in 10th place and taking half a second off his time. So this might make him jump to 4th place.
That's a good little time for the Williams driver then. Jacob really pushing at the moment, and obviously the change to intermediate tyres is definitely working for him. And I think maybe it is time for the intermediate tyres, even though the weather's still looking pretty horrendous out here right now. It's able to be enough for inters, and it's P2 for the Williams driver. That's a wonderful lap time from Jacob, and definitely the track is producing better lap times right now.
Of course, on the other hand, we have Jan Alades and Modesto Mena out on wets. And I don't think they'll have plenty of time to come into the pits, swap and go out. So this might be a bit of a tricky situation for both McLarens. And, well, I'd say Andres Lopez, but he's still on the pit, so he's still in time to change.
Yeah, let's whereabouts on track is Alades. He's on the hanger straight, so he might have enough time. If he decides to pop in to the pits, he might have enough time to really go back out and set a lap time. But that's putting extra pressure on, especially when you're sat P12. He is not going in the pit lane, so he's taking the risk. Let's see.
Talking about full pressure, we have Tony Richer on last place, but improving and finishing his attempt. Well, it's only 14, so he's in a bit of a tight spot. Let's see if he can manage to still improve more his time on this attempt.
Yeah, it's inters, so he's, I think, a little bit of... Some of these guys are putting a lot of pressure on themselves right now, which may be a little bit unnecessary for being on these wet tyres or starting qualifying on the wets. And I think you were right. I think it might have been better to start this on intermediates.
Well, who is not starting anymore in this second qualifying session is Dani Berezne, retiring in the pits, believing that his time will be enough, and I think Jacob Rosessu will do the same. No, I don't think he will have time to just go into the pits and go out again and start a lap.
So Danny Berezne's teammate is coming through Stowe. Is he going to be setting another lap time? It looks like he is. It's looking nice through Club and Vale.
Starting a lap.
He's starting a lap. Some of these drivers really putting me on edge right now. Let's go on board with
No, the thing is that the game retires the out lap before they cross the line, while they're in the third sector, so it complicates a bit the Mets. Who improved his time was Milan Meyer, P5 once again, the Haas driver, taking half a second off his previous time, jumping to P5. Let's see if that's enough, but I think he will still keep pushing until the end. He still has some battery going on, so probably enough for another attempt.
Gianpietro then, I think, coming through. Maggers and Beckett's down the hanger straight. I think he might be able to set a little bit of a lap time now as we head really into the business end of Q2. And I mean, most of these drivers who aren't out on the lap or doing their lap really won't have another choice. Fassi and Pledson probably will be able to get one more lap time in, but the Aston Martin driver of Gianpietro is coming across the line now. Is it going to be quicker? It is. It's P4 for him right now.
I'll tell you what, I'm not sure how well thought was this early retirement. I mean, Danny has a one fantastic time, and Jakub really couldn't go into the pits and go out again. But when you consider that you have Chenakinchi with an invalidated time in P15 going for his last attempt at the moment, and he's one of the championship contenders, so for sure he'll try to go on into the top 10 so he can go for third qualifying session. So if I was somebody else in the top 2, I wouldn't be retiring at the moment just yet. Just try to do my best until the very end. But I think Lilin will be retiring as well. But yeah, I think he'll be out of this qualifying session.
Yeah, I think he will be. There's Lopez putting himself P10 provisionally. But let's go on board with Kanakichi, as he surely will be setting a lap sooner or later, because the checkered flag has flown. Lillian is out of qualifying, starting no higher than P11. Tony Ritchie can't go any quicker. He will start no higher than 14th. But Souza, Nelson and Kanakichi can all improve on their lap times if they get it right. So time will tell to see what will happen. We've also got our drivers ahead who might be able to set their lap times a little bit quicker as well. And right now,
Nelson is not improving. It seems like it's raining more at the moment.
That does make things a little bit trickier for these guys outside of the top 10 who want to get into Q3. But it could be problematic for Kanakichi as he's really struggling through Stowe. The back end was stepping out there. So is he cost himself a chance at Q1, I wonder?
Well, he's improving 8 tenths, but he needs to improve 1.1 second at least. Well, no, more than that, really. 1.3 perhaps? And he manages. P7 for Chenakinchi. 1.3, I believe, of an improvement. What a lap for the Alpine driver.
Yeah, cracking lap for him. Nelson really went off at Stowe there, and I think that's cost him his lap time. Andreas Lopez then across the line, is it very nearly? And will he be beating Pledson? He does not. So Pledson can probably breathe a big sigh of relief that he's going to be in Q1. And he puts himself P2. A little bit out of nowhere, that, I think, for the Ferrari driver. He had a proper tank slapper moment, I think, out of the last quarter and nearly cost him, but he's managed to put himself into a great position right now. But your 5 drivers that are out of qualifying are Lopez, Lillian, Alves, Souza and Tony Ritchie. I mean, are you surprised by that at all?
Don't apologize for your efforts on the Portuguese names. God knows I have plenty of difficulties with the others, and you're quite close. So I wasn't really expecting Nelson Alves, or even Tony Richer to drop on the second qualifying session, but a couple of invalidated laps, making it the end of the second qualifying session for them. So let's see how this third qualifying session will be. We'll still be joined by the lovely rain of Britain, which is something as a Portuguese I'm not quite used to. But of course, that's the natural weather in Silverstone, and we will still have it during our qualifying session. 10 drivers, both McLaren and both Alfa Romeos are the only 2 teams that will have both drivers in this last pole shootout that we will have. 11.5 minutes to go till we know who will be our pole position driver, and of course the rest of our grid. The top 10, we will have Milan Mayer, Daniel Kilson, Dani Beresney, Chenakinchi, Jakub Joseph, Ismael Fassi, Gianpietro Odiano, Jan Alares, Benches Zaboconi and Modesto Mena, all trying to go for pole position.
And what I will ask everyone right now is, who do you think is going to claim pole position here at Silverstone? And the question goes over to you as well. Who do you reckon is going to be pole at the end of this session?
I'm a bit of a conservative in betting, so I'll answer the same. I'll go for the championship leader. But I'm telling you, I don't. It's a bit of a timing situation. We still have some drivers going out on the wets, like Milan Meyer, Jan Alades, and Ben Avocone. So Dani Maria's own teammates going for the wets at this time. Interesting to see who will have gotten it right. Not sure, but I think it would be nice to have Dani Chen and Ismail all close to each other. Whether it's at the top of the table or in the mid, I don't care. But I'd like to have them together so they'll have a direct fight for the championship.
I'm going to try and answer my own question. And Kledson right at the end there of Q2 had a really wonderful lap time. I don't think it's going to be enough to pip Danny Berezne's time. And I think maybe Akinci and Fassi are both possibly set very much for dry. So, and they just don't have the confidence in this dry setup on the wet track, which could cost them massively on grid position. But I can see them probably the mid pack of this top 10 with Danny Berezne taking pole position for now. But yeah, let us know in the chat who you think might be pole for this one, and let's enjoy the action with 9 minutes left of this qualifying here at Silverstone to go. And I'm bored with Milan Meyer right now to see how he can produce a lap for Haas, maybe getting them some good screen time here in ORL.
Of course, just a quick update. From what I understood, Lillian had that disconnection and some connectivity issues, so that might have cost him a place here in this pole position shootout. And of course, you mentioned Daniel Kilton as an outsider because he put the time so late. But the truth is, the first time the boy raced in ORL, he went for a podium and he was fighting at some point for the win. So let's not just take him out of contention just yet.
I know the ways that usually I curse a few people when I back them, so I was trying to be a little bit conservative, I suppose, and not causing him issues in the race, because I don't want anyone to have a commentator's curse from me in my first time here in ORL.
Oh. But we have to speak during the race, so let's just hope we don't curse, but we have to speak about them.
So, Milan Meyer, the Haas driver, coming through the final few corners here at Silverstone. Mena then Fassi putting in the fastest line, and then there goes Milan Meyer. What a lap time from him. Kledson going just agonisingly quick. Look how close those top three are, and Danny Berezne is a full second quicker. Wow.
What a declaration of intent by the Alfa Romeo driver. Let's see. I think his teammate invalidated his attempt, so he will be going for one now. Let's see what the difference will be between the two Alfa Romeo drivers. In the meantime, we still have Jacob and Gianpietro on their attempts as well. With them both crossing the line now. Gianpietro jumping to 6th, then dropping to 7th because Jacob Rosescu goes 2nd. The Williams driver has really been fighting for the first half of the standings in this qualifying session. So interesting to see. Will we have a Williams starting from the front row?
He really does look at home in these wet conditions here at Silverstone. I have gone on board with Danny Berezne's teammate Ben right now as he's coming down the hangar straight. He is on the set of wets, and I wonder if that's going to cost him lap times. I don't think he really wants to be out on track for too much longer either. I think he should really pop into the pits, as he is doing so, to get into a set of intermediate tyres to get them going again. I wonder how many other drivers will do similar, or if they do one more laps to see if they've got enough grip. I'm looking at Danny Berezne here as he's coming through into the final final chicane really here at Silverstone. Can he go quicker?
Interesting to see. I mean, he is going faster. Yeah, he is going faster. 6 tenths separating him from Jakub in P2. He definitely doesn't want to leave it to chance. Just putting another time with 5 minutes to go, and I'm pretty sure he will go for the pits, take all the fuel he can, and just go for a final shootout. If he still has any fresher intermediates, for sure, this is the time to use them.
As goes Gian Pietro across the line. It's P4 for him. That's a solid lap time as well. They're getting closer to Danny Berezne, but not close enough at the moment. But Kanakenchi probably going to set himself into a new tyres soon, as well as Ismail Fassi as well. So these guys really have a little bit more pressure on their shoulders, because Berezne has put that time early doors. He's put the time early, maybe to really put the pressure on everyone else. But Milan Meyer, on those set of wet tyres, has done I think he's done a fantastic job right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's clear that the Inders are the set of tires to be at the moment. Let's see if it doesn't get any worse until the end of the qualifying session. That might as well be a reason for some drivers doing 2 attempts at a row before going back to the pits. They might think that the weather might be going worse at the end of this qualifying session, and deciding to be safe, let's put one more extra lap before returning to the pits, as Danny Berezne does right now. But of course, curious to see that Ismail Fassi comes out on the wets yet again. So he really is more comfortable on the wets with this weather. Or, as I was theorizing, it's actually getting worse. What do you reckon?
I think it's right at that cusp of it's one or the other. It's not. It's you could use both, and some people are just very much at home with an intermediate tyre, while other people are finding it more comfortable on the wets. I'm trying to think who else could be on lap, because it's mixed throughout again.
Ismail will be the first one going for the last attempt.
I think is that one McLaren on inters and one McLaren on wets. It is. So
yeah.
People really don't know what to do.
Well, 8 tenths or 4/5 if you want. Say it's green. So let's see.
We'll wait and see. Ismail Fassi is going to be, like you mentioned, the first one to set a lap time, but Bentz, I think, is just behind him as well. Has to set a lap time, or he'll be starting in 10th place.
Of course. It will be interesting to see. Really interesting to see, in my opinion, what will come out of this lap of Bence. He can still miss this one. He still has time to abort this one and go for another one, as long as he stays on the same set of tires and has fuel for another attempt. But still, as soon as he puts a lap, he's out of the 10th position. I'm sure he would rather do it sooner rather than later. Less pressure this way. But I really don't think this is for wets at the moment. This is looking like intermediate conditions.
I think you could very well be right. I think the wets, Ismail Fassi, I don't think he looks comfortable through the high-speed corners. You're looking at Cops and Stowe on those wets, especially Maggots and Beckett's. Actually, it just seems a little just slidey. And when you're in wet conditions on full wets, you don't expect that at all. So it might very well be intermediate conditions. We'll keep an eye on him as he comes through Stowe now, and the sound of the throttle pressure as he goes through certain corners just don't seem that high at the moment. But we'll keep an eye on him as he comes across the line. Can he get any higher than 7th place? For Ismail Fassi, it's P3. It's a 139 dead right now.
Keep an eye on Benji. He's right behind, only 8th, so this might be interesting. But let's see. He's going for another attempt. He had most of his lap was quite smooth, but then some issues at the end. He now knows his last attempt, the last possible time he can improve. And of course, we had, I think it was Modesto Mena also putting a lap P6 for the Spaniard at the moment, while we have the other McLaren of Jan Aladesh also coming up to cross the line. He was improving on almost 7 tenths. So for sure, this will be him out of 10th and up to second position.
What a lap time for Jan Haladesh there, and Akinci as well, up into P2. The lap times are falling thick and fast, and those guys were on a set of intermediate tyres. So it looks like if you get the lap together on the inters, you're going to be quite high up. I wonder who else could be a driver to watch out for. Is Klitzen just about to start a lap time? I believe he is, so we won't go on board with him. It could very well be time to go back on board with Milan Meyer as he is coming through Maggots and Beckett's right now. The Haas driver currently sat P9. He is on a set of intermediate, so is he going to be able to go quicker this time around? Well, time will tell. We've only got 10 seconds of Q3 remaining. This is it. This is his lap time.
In the meantime, we have Ismail Fassi will not be able to launch his lap. So it's the end of the qualifying session for the Mercedes driver. And we have Ben Zabocone finishing his attempt. It's only 9th for the McLaren driver, and it's 10 because Milan Meyer jumps to P4.
That's a wonderful lap time for Milan Meyer. Jakob then still in P5 after his first attempt. He's got a little bit of pressure on him now. I wonder if it's Danny Beresne that's going to be next to cross the line. It's either him or...
It's Jan Aladesh.
Jan Haladesh. Okay, let's go.
The McLaren.
Yep, let's go on board with him, see what he can do, as he is desperate to make a little bit more of a statement, the McLaren driver. Can he get back into P2 or even... Oh no, it's across the line, and he hasn't crossed the line because he's spun it. He's pushed a bit too hard. I wonder if that was going to be enough to beat Akinci, but Akinci does go quicker, but not quick enough to beat Danny Beresne.
Especially as he improves his attempt. With a 1:38.0, it seems like it will be pole position for the Hungarian unless someone like Jakob Rozes can improve on his time enough to take pole position from the Hungarian. Let's see these final corners into club by Jakob Rozes. The Williams driver really careful into the throttle, trying not to lose his car, and it's before. So pole position, Danny Beresne.
We were pretty certain that was going to be the case for Danny Beresne, but he does have Akinci alongside him on the front row of the grid. Kledson managing P3 there at the end, with Jakob only managing P4. I say only, still a wonderful lap time from the Williams driver nonetheless. Haladesh in P5, 6th to Meyer, 7th to Ismail Fassi. Just maybe the wrong decision to start that session on the wets. Gian Pietro in 8th, 9th to Mena, and Bentz unable to really set a lap time in this final session of qualifying. And it's an Alfa Romeo sandwich really here in Q3.
Yeah, well, it's an everything else sandwich because you don't call it a bread sandwich. But I get what you mean. What you mean? Of course, curious to see that both Spaniards on the wets and the rest of the grid on the intermediates. And I'll tell you, Gareth, this is more my kind of weather. Okay, what we will have for the race, it's more my kind of weather. I'm pretty sure that it will still be cold, but it's at least sunny.
Yeah. Silverstone will definitely be cold. Trust me. I think everyone knows that. But yeah, look, it's sunny out there. At least you're going to get these guys get the choice of whatever tyres they want to be on. So it's going to be interesting to see who will start on the alternate strategy, because while obviously you want to be quick throughout, but if you're on the set of softs to start with, you're going to be going into the pits really early, and I don't think we're going to see any of these drivers start on a set of softs.
Nor finishing unless there's a late safety car.
Or finishing unless there's a double safety car and we have, I don't know. I don't want to set anything in motion because sometimes it does mess up. But very, very close to race time right now, and 20 seconds. Final thoughts from you, Joanna, before we go racing.
Final thoughts. Remember, there will not be a formation lap, so we'll go straight into the race. and let's hope that we don't have many killed into the first couple of corners.
Let's head over to the main screen then. Let's see how this one is going to pan out. We are waiting for the lights to go full out. We're on 5 red lights here at Silverstone in ORL, and we are racing straight away, and it looks like Dani Beresne's had a pretty solid start as they come down into turn 1. Haladej is having a great start as well. In the background, he's trying to get him past Fassi, has done, and the positional changes between Klejsen and Akinci is going to cause a little bit of stir between the two of them, and the Ferrari driver looks like he's got the move done into the loop and village, and that is Dani Beresne into the lead by a fair whack of time. And in the background, there has been positional changes as well. Lillian up into P10 and Nelson up into P12 as well. But I think we've had a big loser. Thiago Costa maybe have dropped down a fair few places.
Well, he dropped a few places, but I don't think there was any kind of contact with him. Just being cautious at the start might have cost him a few positions. And that was wrong. Something happened to Nelson, I think, because he dropped to P16. He just said he was 12th. I was wrong. We have a driver on the softs, Javier Fernandez. But again, the Spaniards and their tires, with all due respect, first wets where everyone else is on inters and now softs.
They're doing it to confuse us in the commentary box, but here comes Jakob on Ismail Fassi as they come down the hanger straight. He doesn't want to be stuck behind him too long. He is on the softer compound tyre of the mediums, and Ismail Fassi is on the hard compound tyres to go a bit longer in this race, but Jakob is looking to go up the inside. This is very tight from the Williams driver. He's not giving anything though, is Ismail Fassi, and Fassi's holding on for the time being. And funnily enough, Daniel Beresne, because it's the first lap of the race, it's the fastest man on the track. There is a yellow flag somewhere as well, and that's Tony Ritchie out of this race.
Not sure what happened. Not sure what happened, but we have a bit of battling going everywhere. The drivers still really close to each other, and no DRS still on this lap, so drivers just trying to grab as many positions as they can before the DRS comes up on the next lap.
That's a wonderful overtake as well through Aintree for Lopez on Bentz. Bentz tried to make the move on Gianpietro, but it just wasn't going to happen, and the door was slightly open for Lopez, and he managed to squeeze his car up there. So it's looking good for him at the moment as he tries to get himself up the field. Let's go on board with Fernandez as he's on those soft tyres as the Haas driver, really putting us to a little bit of a questioning what's going on, but he's all over the back of the two drivers ahead of him, and could cause a little bit of problems for other drivers because of his strategy.
Interesting to see that Dani Beresne decided to go for the medium compound, trying to get away of the DRS train that will form soon, and he managed to do it, unlike Jakob and Lillian, who still have the drivers behind them quite close. So this might be crucial for the Alfa Romeo driver. Of course, he's the only driver that will not be attacked by DRS. Except, of course, for Thiago Costa, who doesn't have anyone behind.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the time and how far Dani Beresne can pull out, because if he's pulled a massive gap out, I feel sorry for the rest of them. Well, once the pit stops happen, I feel sorry for the rest of them, because that sometimes can be daunting. And up the inside of Sousa goes Javier Fernandez. He's really using those softs to his advantage right now, getting his elbows out to make moves. Let's go on board a little bit higher up and see what Ismail Fassi can do, because he's trying to make a move on Akinci right now. He is quite close to the back end of him as they come through Luffield and into Woodcote. But I think you mentioned earlier, quite rightly, that it can become a little bit of a stalemate here with the DRS trains.
Yeah, and don't forget, Ismail versus Chen is a direct fight for position in the championship. They're second and third by this order in the championship. So it should be interesting to see what comes out of that fight, especially in the equal tires. And I'm curious to ask Dani at the end if he was just betting on a safety car, or if the strategy was to run away from the others, because it's working perfectly. 2 seconds between him and Daniel Kilson, and that is the gap of time that might include most of our grid, while we have Javier Fernandez and Ben Zaboconi going side by side once again, with, of course, the Haas driver Javier getting position on Ben Zaboconi.
I wonder if Fernandez is hoping for an early safety car as well, because he can get onto a. Yeah, it's interesting how these drivers have how their mindset works when it comes down to these sorts of races, because you're never really going to get all the same thing happening, and you can look at that at the top of the grid, because Danny Berezne is on those softer compound mediums, and he's 2.7 seconds in the lead. And if the battling behind between Kledson, Akinci and Fassi continues to happen, he's going to be there rubbing his hands thinking, I've made the right choice.
Of course, if there is no safety car, he might be in danger for the end of the race. So let's see which way it goes. For now, it seems like it's a bit of a strategical race going on.
Let's see. Let's go a little bit further back. And Lillian, who's had a little bit of trouble through qualifying, he's got himself up into P8 for the time being. He's on those softer compound mediums as well, just trying to maybe make a nuisance for himself. But it's a good position to be in, as he's hounding both the two McLarens out in front, actually missing the overtake between Akinci, Kledson and Fassi down the hangar straight. And Kledson trying to get himself back into that. And this is really helping Danny Berezne.
Well, and Chen Akinci, because putting a car between him and Ismail Fassi, that's exactly what he needed.
Definitely is, and we'll keep on board with this one, because Fassi is desperate to get past that Ferrari as well, and Alpine is going to be very, very interested to see what happens behind him right now, because he will want Daniel to keep in front of Ismail for a little while to go.
Of course, you can't forget that behind Ismail there's 4 yellow tires that might help Jakub Brzeski to close that gap to Ismail Fassi. So this might become a 4-way battle.
It's really, really tough for these guys right now. 3.5 seconds between Akinci and Berezne. That is the gap on lap 5 of 26 here in ORL. We've got battles throughout. Gianpietro struggling a little bit with pace right now, and Javier Fernandez, though soft, doesn't look like it's worked to his favour on lap 5. He's got a few positions gained, but they will not be in the way that he would want them right now. But we will go and, well, stay on board as they come down the hangar straight again, as Kledson is attacking Akinci as they come to Stowe. Will he make it up the inside? He thinks better of it on this occasion, but he'll stick to the back end of that Alpine.
Tell you what, those softs will last maximum 7 laps, I think. So this should be interesting to see how long will Javier Fernandez stay out between he gives up on a safety car showing up and goes for hards or mediums. Not sure what the strategy will be here. He might go for the hard tires, but still, he's losing time to Andres Lopez at the moment. And has Bence all over the rear of his house. So, and he's going to lose position now. I'm pretty sure Bence had a way better exit than him. He moves to the left to not give him a tow, and that actually pays off for the moment, as he manages to keep P12. Bence tries to go all the way around, or maybe just trying to avoid any kind of contact with the American car ahead of him. Of course, there's also a battle of batteries going on, because they will recover some when they go for the pit lane, and this will be crucial at the end. What amount of battery you have available to you, so you can push for an overtake. But crucially, at the moment, if the guy ahead of you makes a mistake, you have to have battery to push to pass them, because the DRS will not be enough.
I don't know what happened on there. Unfortunately, it just came up with an error on my screen, but we're back to normal, and Fernandez is popping into the pits now on lap 7. So his risk hasn't paid off, I don't think.
Yeah, he comes on lap 6. It's 7 for Danny, but 6 laps on those softs for Javier Fernandez. Of course, it paid off or not. It will depend on what happens during the rest of the race. So far, it seems like it didn't. But if there is a safety car in a couple of laps and he manages to close the gap before, and he goes for medium, so he's clearly betting on a safety car. I don't think those mediums. No, I'm sure that those mediums can go to the end.
Yeah,
So we'll have to stop again.
It will be tough, even with a safety car and him deciding not to pit. Those mediums will be very well. It's just not worth the risk, I don't think, to go into the pits. Kanakichi then is 4.8 seconds behind Daniel Berezne. Danny is definitely pulling the gap a little bit at the front, but I don't know if 5 seconds is going to be enough to hold anything off towards the end of the race. Akinci really doing a great job of getting in front of Kledson and then holding that station as well. So it's a good job for him, but I wonder if Kledson is just holding a little bit of ERS back.
It seemed like Modesto was going for a dive down the inside on Jan Alades, but he opted out of it. Might have scared a bit the Czech driver into missing slightly his braking point, but still 6 and 7 for the duo of McLaren. While we have our first time penalty in this game, Hudson Poole getting his first 3 seconds for corner cutting down in P16 at the moment, and these 3 seconds would mean P18 for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, not ideal for Hudson Poole there, and there is that little bit of a break between Bentz and Felipe Sousa in P12 and 13 respectively. There's a little bit of a gap, obviously, in the train, and then Nelson in P15 holding on to that, and I wonder by 1.5 seconds to zing behind. We'll stay on board with the leading battle at the moment because it's Kanakinci just holding station.
It might be a double overtake for Nelson if Felipe can't get the DRS off the car ahead. Let's see what happens in the rear of the grid. Of course, he's not under pressure from Sishing, so more of time. We have Taiko and Felipe side by side. Nalves goes for the inside as well, side by side, Portuguese and Brazil. And let's see into the braking zone who will get the best at the exit. It seems like it will be the AlphaTauri driver at the moment, but Felipe is still close, trying to maintain, of course, and get his place back, at least one of them, because he lost 2 to the Dutch of Mercedes. And to Nelson, with no DRS, it was almost impossible, and no battery, it was almost impossible to defend that.
And there was obviously that DRS break between 12th and 13th before that, but Hardy's overtake has caused him to get back into that DRS range and closed the gap up a little bit, and Nelson might not have an opportunity to attack down the hangar straight of the Mercedes ahead of him like he did the lap before, but he's got one position up as Nelson, and that's a recovery drive up because he had that poor start, unfortunately.
Even for Felipe, he lost 2 positions, but now he has DRS to recharge his battery, and he's not under attack from the driver behind, so it's not all lost for the Williams driver.
Not all lost yet at all. Lillian's doing a great job in 8th place, really getting back up at the McLaren ahead of him. So let's continue to watch this one as he gets close, but I don't think it's going to be close enough on this occasion into Stowe. And those mediums still working strong at the moment. They're the tyre to be on because Danny Berezne is 5.8 seconds in front of Akinci, but I think the charge is slowing slightly for Danny.
Well, that's I'd say he will pit maybe next lap, maybe. Maybe not on next lap because he's not under pressure, so he might want to maximize the medium compound before going for the hard. But as long as Chen is not closing that gap, he's quite comfortable. Of course, the Alpine driver is not really using much battery to defend from Daniel Kilson, nor is the Ferrari driver using it to attack. So it's just a bit of what we used to call orange peas, as they just wait for their opponents to just make a mistake and then try to pounce and gain the position.
Hudson Poole has decided to pit on lap, it would have been lap 9 for him. So an early pit stop for the other Ferrari driver. We're on board with his teammate as he's trying to keep up with Akinci right now, but Ismail Fassi seems to have got a little bit of a confidence underneath him, and he's really pushing again. And Akinci, I think, is trying to push through a little bit as well. They know what is coming, and that is a Danny Berezne pit stop. And right now, I think that, once Danny's pitted, he could be in traffic.
That's why I said that he might not just pit, just yet. But yeah, for sure, that's the disadvantage of starting in the mediums and have the rest of the grid on the hard compound, is that for sure he will have some traffic to deal with. Maybe wait for Jakob Rosesko to pit and see how much traffic does how much traffic does he have to deal with, and then make his pit, because he's quite comfortable. He's still improving the gap to Chen at the moment.
It's looking good for Berezne. I thought I'd go on board with Javier Fernandez as he comes through the last corner now and see where he gets with Lillian, because Lillian is coming out of the pits, and while Javier has been on out for a little bit longer, well, obviously having that pit stop as well, I wonder if there's going to be anywhere close. He's miles away, to be perfectly honest. So he's the strategy's not gone well for Javier Fernandez tonight.
I mean, Javier might close the gap because he's on the medium compound, and Lillian will obviously have their tires colder this lap. But still, I don't think that Javier can make these mediums go to the end.
I don't think he can at all. Ismail Fassi then attacking the Ferrari ahead of him and behind Jakob struggling. Now these guys have started to push the gap a little bit, these top guys. So we could see...
Jakob to the pits. Sorry.
So Jakob realising that it's not going well for those medium compound tyres. He's dropped out of that range ahead. Danny Berezne, though, is being caught by Akinci. But I think he's waiting for all these pits to happen so he doesn't get as much traffic. I think you were right with what you mentioned there.
Well, let's see. I know they can go to the end on these mediums from now, but it might be a bit of a stretch to just pit and give a free way for Danny Berezne at the moment, especially if you're in a DRS range. I'd say just take the DRS, try to go a bit further and try to go for a later pit stop, and try to gain some positions on track by staying out. And of course, we had some drivers out of the pits quite close to each other, with Lillian just behind Gianpietro Gianna, who was able to maintain a position to the Red Bull, but I don't think he will be able to resist on this straight.
Into Brooklands goes the Red Bull driver of Lillian, and he gets the position on the cold tyres of Gianpietro. And the position is done and dusted. Let's go on board with the battle for P2, because Kledson has got the position as they enter Stowe, and that is the Ferrari driver back into P2. And they were catching Danny Berezne because he's into the pit lane, and I am going to go on
double
board.
Stack. Double stack for Alfa Romeo, with BenQ also stopping this lap.
I think it's surely going to work in their favour. Can I get to the camera in time? I think Danny Berezne's well out in front, and BenQ is going to be able to... There's a little bit of a hell hold there, and that's not going to be ideal for Alfa Romeo.
It could have been worse, in my opinion, but that might have cost him a position to Nelson. I'm pretty sure it did.
So Danny Berezne is in clear air. He's got 11 seconds to the guys ahead. Let's see. I think you're right as well. That has cost BenQ a position to Nelson, and he's all over the back of the AlphaTauri, but that's all it takes. Is fine margins here, isn't it?
Welcome to RL, Garrett. Welcome. So we have Gianpietro returning the favor and gaining the position back from Lillian. And of course, it will be interesting to see how fast can Danny Berezne close the gap to Thiago Costa, or if the drivers ahead will pit before he reaches them. He has a 12-second gap, so it should be safe from holding, especially considering that we have 2, maybe 3, or even 4 drivers going into the pits at the moment. So interesting to see how far from Danny Berezhny will Daniel Kilson get out when he finishes his pit stop.
And also, we've Ismail Fassi and Haladej are not pitting this lap, as we've seen the other guys pit, but I was meant to go on board with Danny Berezhny. For some reason, it went to Gianpietro. But let's go on board with Danny Berezhny to see how close he can get to the drivers, or how close the other drivers can get to him with that pit stop positioning there. Glitchen's coming out of the pits. Berezhny's there. Gianpietro is the fastest man on track. And in fourth place, there's a little bit of a gap. 3.4 seconds between Berezhny and Klitzen there. And that is quite close between the two of them.
I think they gained quite a lot of time, and it will be interesting to see if they can close the gap on those medium tires. Of course, they have cool tires, so they will lose a bit more time during this lap. But still, and there's some fighting going on with Milan Meyer on the fresh, soft, still cold, losing position to Gianpietro Giano, who has been out for two laps. So his tires are perfectly fine, and he says, "Thank you very much. I'll just take it." P7 for the Aston Martin driver. Let's see if he manages to catch up to Modesto Mena.
Yeah, time will tell. But look at Akinci. It's 1.3 seconds behind the Ferrari. I wonder if Akinci was held in the pits, because that's a lot of time between the two of them there. And I think it's definitely going to be time to look at maybe even Andreas Lopez as well, because he's all over the back of Jakob Rezust in P10 as well, and Lillian there as well. These drivers are starting to get a little bit closer, a little bit feisty, I think, but nothing happening down into Stowe. And maybe Daniel Kledson has made a wonderful undercut to give himself a little bit of breathing room to Akinci and Ismail Fassi, because they're coming out the pits now. Where does the Ferrari driver go? He's going to be side by side with Fassi, and I think Fassi's in trouble.
Fassi actually managed to gain position on Chen, and he could have had DRS to defend, but he's so close to Chen Akinci that I'm pretty sure he's using all his berry to just grab onto that P3 for the moment. Let's see down the back straight if he manages to keep it as it is, because he's almost losing DRS to Daniel ahead of him.
So close between the two of them right now, and this isn't what Akinci would have wanted, because Fassi was behind for so long, behind both of the drivers in question, and all of a sudden Fassi stayed out an extra lap, probably burnt a lot of his ERS, and now has an opportunity to finish this race in second place, and depending how quickly these guys can go, could even catch Danny Berezhny towards the end of the race.
If you think that's close, don't look between 10th and 13th, because they're all, I think, 4 drivers within 1 second.
I think Hardy's making a move up the inside of Lopez through Stowe as well. This is side-by-side stuff at this present moment in time, and it's not... Oh, they're still side-by-side. Through Vale Club they go, and I think surely one of them's going to have to concede the position. But no, they're just going to add another driver into this, which is Nelson.
Yeah, Nelson having... Oh, that was unfair. He had to avoid the Alpine ahead of him, and now dives into the inside, and there's contact between the two drivers. He had to avoid the car ahead, went to the inside, and there was contact. No space to avoid Andres Lopez, and they both collide, and that's 2 positions for Nelson and a few more for Andres.
That's not ideal. Unfortunate incident there, and I'm sure the stewards might look into that one towards the end. Between races, but very difficult to see who or what was at fault for that one. But it's the problem with Silverstone sometimes is that if you go in a little bit hot to a corner, it can cause incidents.
Well, one will argue that the other dived, one will argue that the other closed the door. So who for sure will dive and gain the position is Ismail Fassi on Daniel Kilson, going into Stowe ahead of Daniel Kilson, P2 for the Spaniard. And let's see if he manages to close that gap to Danny Berezhny.
It's 3.5 seconds at the moment. There's a yellow flag for somewhere on track, but Ismail Fassi is
Javier.
the fastest man on the track, and that is not surprising with the way he's been driving over the last 2 laps since coming into the pits, and it's putting on a set of medium compound tyres, and he is looking really racy. And just in the foreground there, you saw the Alfa Romeo of Danny Beresne, and it's 3.4 seconds on lap 17 of 26. It's going to be close towards the end of this race.
Close indeed. Talking about close, another round of P9 to P12, quite close to each other. No attacks so far in the Wellington Straight, but let's see. I'm pretty sure that we will have some action soon because those 4 are really, really close to each other.
Yeah, I think Jacob there. Oh, Javier Fernandez, 5-second penalty in the pit lane, and has retired because of it as well. But yeah, the hard compound tyres for Jacob there. He's going to be struggling, but I think he just needs to cling on to the back end of Lillian here, who I believe is also on a set of hards. But Hardy's struggling a little bit in the early doors of Maggots and Beckett's. And these hard compound tyres that some of these drivers are on will be the race tyre to be on at the end of the race. But right now, these mediums are looking incredible. And there goes Jacob on Lillian down into Stowe. A position gained for the Williams driver. But Lillian looks like he's going to try and come back, but nothing doing. But the Mercedes of Hardy is definitely going to battle this one around the outside of the Red Bull. So close, but he's been squeezed out a little bit there.
Oh well, Mercedes and Red Bull fighting in Silverstone. Do we really have to talk about it?
It's typical stuff going on. Ismail Fassi, though, isn't catching Danny Beresne as quickly as I thought he would. It's 3.5 seconds at the moment, and you thought with the softer compound to tyres, he would be all over the back. Well, you'd be showing extra pace.
Well, I'm sure he's showing extra pace, but so is Danny for sure at the moment. While we have Benche and Tycho still fighting it out, and now advantage for the Alfa Romeo. Let's see if he manages to attack on Lillian and Jacob, who are ahead of them on hard tires.
I think that's Hudson Poole.
Oh, and Hudson's Poole.
Sorry, Hudson Poole has made a mistake. Is there a front wing on that Ferrari? There is. So it's not too bad of an incident. So he's he's able to continue if he wishes. Jacob trying to pull away from Lillian a little bit. I know this is going to be a little bit of a battle going on. I don't think Fassi's going to lose a position, but here comes Bence. I don't think it's going to be close enough to the Red Bull ahead. And Lillian able to hold station because of the DRS and ERS assistance that he had going down the hangar straight.
Let's see if they manage to keep this 9th and 10th position. Both drivers. This might be interesting because if Jaco isn't really careful, he might lose 2 positions at once.
And we've seen that before, didn't we? A few laps ago with Felipe Sousa losing 2 positions. So it's possible. And I wonder if Bent's looking like he was going to go up the inside there, but nothing, no full gap was for him to have an attack on Lillian. But here he comes down the Wellington Straight. Is he going to have enough pace to him as he comes to Brooklands? I think he is. He's got the inside line, and that's Bent's up into P10. And Jakob then in trouble probably towards the end of the hangar straight.
Very probably. I'd say, let's see if Benche manages to close closer. Oh, and we have Ismail Fassi with a time penalty. This might be crucial for his aspirations in the championship. 3 seconds. That would make him drop quite a few positions, especially to Cena Kinchi, which is his main rival at the moment.
That is not ideal for Ismail Fassi, and Lillian dropping a position to the sister Mercedes of Hardy as well. So
Benche.
Benche, oh yeah, Benche as well. There's so much action now happening going through this, and Benche holding station for the time being in front of Jakob, and we thought that might happen, and Jakob is now down to P10, but if he can keep to the back end of that Alfa Romeo, he might be able to come back at him towards the end of the race. But Danny Beresne is pulling away from the rest of the field. It's now 3.8 seconds. He's found pace and he's pushing.
Oh, clearly Ismail might have made a mistake, otherwise he wouldn't have gotten those three those 3 second penalties. But of course, always under immense pressure from Daniel Kilson, can't help the Spaniard focusing on Dani Berezny, especially with this penalty.
Yeah, there's
It's a bit, sorry to interrupt, it's a bit of a game, isn't it? He has absolutely no interest in going for Dani at the moment because the two guys behind him will come with him, and if anything happens, he'll lose even more points to Chen Akinci and that, well, not Daniel because he's a reserve, but to Chen Akinci. If he brings this train to Dani Berezny, this will be worse for him at the moment.
Yeah, it's a strategy. I know it's a racing game, but it's also a strategy game for these guys. You're really right with what you mentioned there. And Modesto Mina as well he wasn't involved in this battle for P2 before. He was just sitting behind. But since the pit stop phase, he's now in this battle for P2.
And ahead of Jan Alades, who was ahead of him in the first half of the race.
Yeah, it really this chess game, I suppose you could call it, going on is quite fascinating for these guys. And all of a sudden, Pledson is finding a little bit of an aggressive streak, but he's made a mistake there through Aintree, I think, and lost a bit of time to Ismail Fassi. And here comes Akinci. Can Akinci do anything as they go to Brooklands? Thinks better of it in the end. But these guys, the strategy behind it right now is quite incredible. And all three of them take a different line through Luffield. So it's quite fascinating to see how this one will pan out. Lap 21 of 26, Dani Berezny has led from start to finish. He's had 2 laps when he was in the pits when he wasn't leading, but I don't think people would hold that against him, really, would they?
Especially considering that they really didn't hold him as they actually pitted before he manages to get close to them. So I'd say that Daniel is going down on the inside on Ismail Fassi. Sorry for the interruption, but position for the Ferrari, and not sure if Ismail is going to answer. No, he decides to stay just behind this Daniel Kilson. It's P2 for the Ferrari driver. Yeah, finally, some action.
there's some action, and it's a 4-way battle, and Ismail Fassi has a problem. That penalty is a massive problem for him right now, because it's going to put him way out of I don't want to say way out of contention for the title, but it's going to give Akinci a real boost in the driver's standings.
It might drop him all the way down to P6 if he's not careful, at least at the moment. Of course, let's see if Cem will try to attack the Mercedes or if it will be Ismail trying to get the position back from Daniel. This might be a bit of a strategy between Mercedes and Ferrari to try to avoid Chen any opportunities to attack. And he actually made a small mistake getting out of Luffield. So this might be what Ismail needed to not be under really heavy attack.
Let's see from Akinci's point of view as they come through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel and down the hangar straight. Will Ismail Fassi have any sort of attack on ahead? There's not, but can Akinci's straight line speed is incredible. He gets really close to the back end of that Mercedes, but it's just not enough on this lap. And Daniel Berezny has... I don't want to say it, but it feels like he's checked out of this race a little bit. He's happy, he's done what he's needed to do, and these guys battling away have helped him in that regard.
Well, especially considering that Daniel has no penalties and is ahead of Chen Akinci, which is his closest rival in the championship. So there's also not only the extra points from winning, but as well the extra point from Chen not being P2.
It's looking great, and actually the McLaren driver of Mina looking quite strong through, especially sector 1. He gets quite close to Akinci, but all of a sudden, Haladej and Gianpietro and Milan Mayer are all included now into this battle for P2 because these guys are battling away, and it's allowed the guys behind just to eke that gap up a little bit and really have a strong strong chance towards the end of the race to do something special.
And guess who is really not happy with that? It's Ismail Fassi with the penalty.
Oh, Ismail Fassi, yeah. Looking at it, Akinci getting very close to the back end of Fassi as they come into Stowe, and you can barely separate those top three drivers. This is going to end up being a really quality end to the race, I think. And I'm not sure. I don't know who I would back to finish P2 in this race right now.
P8 for Ismail at the moment. This really complicates things for him. I'm curious to see if Modesto will try to pass Cem in the next couple of laps. He's been closing that gap. Of course, there's not much of a gap either between Cem and Ismail or between Ismail and Daniel. But McLaren driver really seems to want to attack that Alpine ahead of him.
Yeah, it's looking quite, well, very, very solid for Daniel Kledsen right now. He's holding station. He's doing exactly what he needs to do and deploying the ERS when he needs to deploy it, and it's holding Ismail Fassi up. And even if he loses that place on the last lap, he will finish ahead of Fassi because of the penalty. So, and you quite rightly quite rightly said that Ismail Fassi will finish, as things stand, P8, and that has really messed points system up for him.
Especially considering that he's been battling it out before P3, P2, the whole race. P8, it's not the same, but it feels a bit like Danny disconnecting at the last corner.
Yeah, it's a gut punch, I think, and the position of change there in P9. Jakob holding on to the back end of Bentz, like I mentioned he probably should do, and he has done. And the hard compound tyres starting to come into more of the race tyre to be on at this stage of the race. We are on the penultimate lap 25 of 26. And yeah, Ismail Fassi trying to do all he can, but that penalty, we'll keep on speaking about it, but that penalty is going to be so costly.
So, indeed. What will not be costly will be BenQ losing position to Jakob Resesut. If he manages to keep up with the Williams ahead of him, he might have one shot to attack him on the final lap, and it will be him, not the Williams driver, deciding when to attack or having to defend. So this might have been a bit purposeful from the Alfa Romeo driver.
Might have been. We'll have to wait and see when they next come down the Hangar Straight. But let's go on board with Ismail Fassi as he comes down through Chapel and into the Hangar Straight now for the Mercedes driver. He's looking quick. It's definitely going to be an overtake up into the inside to Stowe, and that might help him a little bit. He just pushed Daniel wide a little bit there, just maybe to stop him from an immediate attack back as they come through Club and Vale, but that could be very early doors. I wonder, at the moment, it looks like it's good for Bentz, but he is being hounded there. And up the inside goes Hardy. They're side by side as they come through Vale and Club. This is a great battle for P10 and the final point scoring position. And it looks like Hardy might have it off the drive as they come through the final corner. And Bentz down to P11.
That's what he wants. Well, not to Tycho. That's what he wanted to Jakob, of course. This was not on his plans. And he now has to take avoiding action to not collide into the Mercedes ahead of him. And that leaves Lillian with a better position to attack him. Will he lose 3 positions on the last 2 laps?
That would be absolutely gutting if it is for Bentz, but he's managing to hold station. I wonder if he'll attack back. But Lillian looking very racy all of a sudden as well. Kledsen losing ground to Fassi. Fassi's really decided to turn the screw a little bit right now, staying on board with this battle for the time being. And I think Bentz is going to hold back and Lillian not do anything. But it'd be very amiss of me not to go on board with Danny Beresne as he comes through Stowe. He's done everything right. He's not put a foot wrong in this race, it doesn't feel like. And as I said that, there was a little bit of a glitch on the system, and I was hoping that it wasn't a disconnect for him for a second race running. But it doesn't matter. OOL Silverstone winner is Danny Berezne. The battle for P2 is going to be on track. Ismail Fassi, who gets the fastest lap, but how far down is he going to go? It's P6 for the Mercedes driver. The battle for P9 is still going on, I'm sure. Actually, I think he's pulled away. Lillian gets past Bence as well. So Bence finishes P12. And what a race. I am really... While there was a lot of strategy involved, some of the racing there was absolutely incredible from these guys.
Of course, the end at Silverstone is always so strategical, and we had it once more. Driver of the day by the games, Tycho Hardy, the Mercedes driver from the Netherlands, winning this accolade from the game, and of course. We might have an opportunity to talk with some of our drivers tonight. Let's see in a bit who we will be able to speak with. But of course, and fastest lap still for Ismail Fassi, so he loses quite a few positions, but still manages to grab to that important point.
He really pushed it at the end there, I think. I think that's what helped him. Let's have a quick look down the order. It's Danny Berezne, as we pretty much knew was going to happen halfway through that race. Took victory there. Kledson, second place. Great drive for him in the Ferrari team there. Akinci in third place. Modesto in fourth. Fifth to Haladej. Fassi in sixth. Gian Pietro in seventh. Eighth place to Meyer. Ninth to Jacob. And 10th, rounding out the points, is Hardy. Lillian, Bence, Felipe, Zing, Nelson, Andreas, Tiago, Costa, all finishing outside of the points, with non-finishers for Hudson Poole, Javier Fernandez and Tony Richet. I mean, a quality, really good race throughout. But, I mean, I know the game gave it to the driver of the day to Hardy, but who would you say was driver of the day?
That's a difficult question. I mean, Daniel has 2 races out of 2 on the podium, so kudos to him. But if I had to go to someone, I mean, I might go for Modesto Mena, because he started 9, had a bit of a difficult beginning of the race, but then managed to go all the way up to P4.
Yeah, it was a very, very solid race from him, and I thoroughly enjoyed seeing all the strategical places happening. So good to see nonetheless. At this point, I guess we've got our first driver in here. So let us head over to an interview stage, and Joanna, I'll let you have a chat with our driver.
Hi, Jem. Welcome. Good evening. It was a very entertaining race from our perspective for you, but tell us more from your point of view. Quite a few battles throughout the whole race. Talk us also about your qualifying session.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying was actually, I'm generally bad in rain, so I couldn't do anything. I was happy with that lap. I got a horrible start, and Daniel basically overtook me in the first corner, which was not ideal. And like after the pit stops, literally like I don't know what to say. They suddenly slowed down and they stopped trying to catch Danny, which made me a bit angry in the race. And I didn't realize that it was the last lap until Ismail made a move on Daniel, which was not ideal again, because I had like 25% extra ERS in the end of the race, and that's a bit too much. But yeah, I mean, generally it was a bad race for me.
Okay. Next week we will be going for Italy, Monza, if I'm not mistaken. What's your thoughts on the Italian Grand Prix?
I mean, I love Monza. Not in this game, of course. There are some RNG curves, but I'm gonna try my best to get a better result. And yeah, I'm excited for Italy actually.
Gareth, would you like to ask?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. Jan, I mean, obviously, you pulled away a little bit from Ismail Fassi in the championship with that result, I think. So I'm just trying to still get the standings in my head. But with that, I know you mentioned that you said you had it was a bad race, but surely you must be relatively happy with some points gained over rivals.
Yeah, I mean, points are points. I'm happy. Of course, I really want to fight for the championship, but yeah, that's Danny Beresney we are talking about. So it was close to impossible, but it's still not over mathematically, and I'm gonna try my best.
Well, congratulations nonetheless. In a sense, it was a really good game of chess from everyone in that battle for P2, and you really, well, it didn't work out fully for you, but you had a great shot and still pulled away from Fassi. I know you weren't as close to Danny Beresney as you would have wanted, but there's still a few more rounds of this season. What's your aim? Is it just to consolidate P2, or are you just going to continue to try and do everything you can to catch Danny Beresney?
I mean, P2 is basically losing in my book. I mean, it doesn't matter if you can't become the #1 driver. Of course, it's tough, but I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna try my best at least. I wanna lose this. If I'm gonna lose this championship, I at least wanna give a fight. But yeah, I have hopes.
Well, congratulations. Good luck for next week. I'll definitely be tuning in to watch the rest of the season, and I hope you continue to do well.
Thank you.
So, from our third place tonight and second in the championship, we will jump for our race winner and first and the championship leader, Danny Beresney. Welcome, Danny. Good evening. Talk us through how was your qualifying and then the race? Bit lonely, I bet.
Yeah, so I mean, just needed to stay focused and put the laps together. But honestly, it's a circuit that I enjoy driving a lot. The qualifying session, I didn't understand the people who were running the wet tires, as intermediate was already faster from Q1. And those sessions I dominated, all of them with completely dry setup. And then I knew that I have pace advantage, so I just chose the strategy which always keeps track position, which is the medium and the hard. And even if the medium runners would catch me, at the last few laps the hard tire is the faster tire, so that was okay. But I saw them not catching me. And then at the penultimate lap I actually attempted to do the fastest lap. And I had around 70% battery, but I didn't get DRS. And yeah, I got the fastest lap, but then Fassi, he overtook me by less than a tenth of a second. So that was a bit of a disappointment in today's perfect race.
Thank you for your words, Gareth, our race winner.
Wow, what a performance from yourself. Could anything else have gone better for you today?
Yeah, so I actually don't really understand, but I wanted to compare this race pace to the F1 esports time, and I would be like P8, P9 in actual esports with this pure pace. So there is still time to find, it seems. Around 8 to 9 seconds I could have gone better, but I don't really see how. So yeah, compared to today, with whatever conditions we had and whatever fuel I took too much fuel. I had like +1 lap at the end, so that adds up together over a 26 laps race distance. But yeah, I always try to find the pace. No matter how much I win by, I always try to be faster than my yesterday self, because you never know when others catch up, and it's always good to have the best pace possible.
And you've been at the top for so long, Danny. Thank you so much for your kind words, and hopefully we'll talk again next week. Have a nice evening.
Nice evening. Bye bye.
So, Gareth, from our race winner, I'd say let's go to one of the drivers of the night, if you may say, with that penalty compromising a bit the final result. Ismail, tell us. Hi. Is it okay to speak in English, or do you want me to translate?
No worries. I can talk in English.
Perfect. Gareth, you'll start this time.
Okay.
So on quali, I don't know why I was myself and Modesto Mena. We were faster with the wet tires. We don't know why. We were losing a lot of time with the inters in the first sector. Every time I was losing like half a second with Danny, and we were like, how can they be that fast with the inters whilst myself and Modesto are that slow? We were so confused, so we switched to the wet tires, and we felt better than inters. I was still far behind Danny and these people, but we were faster than inters, so I just did the lap with the wets. Not a good lap. I qualified P7, I think, but then I had a mega start, moved from P7 to P4 already in the first sector. So I wanted to push Can and Daniel to not lose that much time with Danny because he was on mediums, but he was so fast, he gapped us by quite a lot of time. And later on I tried the overcut, which it worked. I passed Can. I nearly lost the RS with Daniel, but yeah, I just started to save some battery behind him. I knew I wasn't gonna catch Danny because he was just so far in front of us, and I wanted to pass him one lap before we finished the race. I had more ERS and not that much better tire wear, but I had, so I knew I was gonna be a bit faster than him, and it worked, and got the fastest lap also. So yeah, I'm happy that I could pass quite a lot of cars, 5 cars. I have to report my warning, one of my warnings, because I've got it exiting the pits. I don't know why. I guess it's glitched. And yeah, I believe it would be P2 for me.
Talk us through that last lap. Obviously, you really the last few laps where you went for it and managed to get that P2 away from Daniel. Obviously, you showed some incredible pace there.
Once I passed Daniel, I thought I was going to be more close to Daniel. I didn't realize how far he was from us. So I said I was going to slow down a bit in the straights to let Daniel pass and just save behind him some ERS. I was lifting before the break-ins to save a bit more than we would if we didn't. And later on I passed him. I was fast on the straight than him, and just managed to finish in front of him.
Fantastic. Joanna, anything for Ismail?
Yeah, Ismail, just the championship gets a bit trickier with those 2 absences. Unfortunately, you couldn't be with us. Tell us until the end, what are your main goals?
If I don't win the championship, then I will have to take P2. I missed those races because I was on vacation, so I couldn't race. And yeah, I don't know where am I in where I am in the championship. I hope
You were 3rd, I believe, before we started the race, with Chen just a few points ahead of you and Danny in P1.
So yeah, I don't know how far Danny is from Ken and I. So
9 points between those two. I'm not
okay.
sure between you and Chem though.
Well, 3 races left, I think. I hope at least if I don't win the championship, a P2 would be nice for me. Just behind an esports driver.
Obviously, either way, Chen has been there as well, so it will not be easy, but wishing you the best of luck and, of course, skill to the last 3 rounds missing. Still to come, of course. And I think that will be out unless you want to thank someone or say anything.
No, I don't know. I don't know if
You're
anything to say.
You're good. Gracias, Ismael. So going last but definitely not least, second race in ORL and second podium. Daniel Kilson, the Norwegian, that has been surprising us. Welcome, Daniel. Talk us through your race and qualify session.
Yeah, so I decided to go a little bit higher on the wings because of the rain in qualifying. As I believe Ismail said, I was a bit slower than him on the straight in the race, but I had good pace. It was like a dry setup, but just with a bit higher wings. And yeah, pace was good, and I'm happy with the strategy in race, but yeah, I think Danny obviously absolutely dominated the race. GG to him and Ismail as well. I think yeah, just had a little bit better pace than me, and yeah, he got P2, and yeah, it looks like he's going to get removed his penalty as well. So. It'll be P3 for me, but I'm happy with that and second podium in a row, so yeah, can't complain.
Harris.
It was a great race from you. Some incredible action that you produced for us, and guessing overall you must be pretty happy to take, if it is P3, but if it's P2. What's your hopes for the remainder of the season?
Well, obviously I'm only a reserve, so I'm not anywhere near the championship fight. As I'll come in midway through the season. So
well, let me just interrupt you there. You're nowhere near the championship fight. That's not quite it. You're quite literally in the middle, at least on track.
Yeah, maybe on track, but you know,
I know what you mean.
The other guys, they have much more points than me. So for me, I think it's just going to be about trying to maximize every race and score as many points as possible, and yeah, try and get obviously more podiums, and yeah.
Fantastic. And I mean, how have you enjoyed these races in ORL for the last few? I think it's 2 weeks you've had. It must be pretty good to finish on a podium here at ORL twice.
Yeah, it does feel very well, or very good, and yeah, pretty happy with the races. Obviously today was also tricky with the qualifying, and I'm not a lot of experience with full qualifying, so yeah, that's obviously something I will be learning how the grip is, because it's quite different to short quali, and today obviously was wet, and I also did no practice for wet, so yeah, I think I know things I can improve on, but yeah, I'm very happy with the race and 2 podiums in a row.
Fantastic. It's a fantastic race from you from my point of view, so congratulations. Joanna, anything to finish on for Daniel?
Just wishing Daniel the best and hope to see you back in our booth soon.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Good luck for the remainder of the season as well. I'm sure you're going to grab so many more points as well. So hopefully speak to you in any sort of commentary. I'm hoping to see your name bounded around a little bit anyway. Let's just say that. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Right then, let's Joanna, let's round this out then. What an incredible race we had. Strategy, wet weather through qualifying. A little bit of controversy with some of the incidents that we saw as well. Couldn't really ask for much more, could we?
Yeah, let's see afterwards how that penalty will or will not be removed. Might have some impact on the championship, of course, with so many positions that Ismail dropped due to that penalty. But still, in the race, we had actually more battles than I was expecting. I was expecting more of a train even than what we had. So I'm really happy that we got a better weather for the race than we had on the qualifying. And for me, this is the perfect setup. You have the rain in the qualifying where each driver depends on themselves. And then you have dry weather for the race where you can have more overtaking. Because I'll tell you, overtaking in Silverstone with rain, it's no easy feat. So I'm happy. As you mentioned, a lot of action during the whole race from the start till the end. Quite a few different strategies as well, if we may say. Obviously, the main strat being hard medium. I was on the first thought, I was not expecting Daniel to go, Dani Berejnej, to go for the medium compound at the beginning, but for sure it worked perfectly his way with those mediums at the start, gaining some good advantage and then just controlling it till the end.
Definitely, Danny showing why he's in his esports tonight. He's a class above. I think he knew exactly what he was doing, and some great battles throughout, and even the lower positions. There was some good battling, and great to see as well. But from there, I think we can say that's about it, isn't it? There's nothing much to say. So. Joanna, thank you so much for sitting alongside me for this one. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's great. So thank you so much for yourself, and thank you for listening as well for the people out there. And obviously, thank you to the title sponsors for this, which is BenQ MOBIUZ Gaming. Thank you to them, and also everyone involved with ORL. ORL seems like an absolutely incredible league to be involved with. So I will definitely be watching a couple more streams moving forward as well. But thank you very much. I've been Gareth, and for now, ORL is out until the next race, which I believe could very actually before we do cancel.
It's on the 15 in Italy.
Yeah, I'm gonna move to the calendar screen. So there is 3 more rounds remaining: Italy, Australia, and Abu Dhabi, I believe. So fantastic. Thank you so much. But for now, goodbye.